Behind the Bill, Episode 17, NNHQ. Knock knock, who's there? It is Knock Knock from the Knock Knock Who's There channel. And who's there next to me? Who is there next to me, you ask? Why, it is my good friend, Mickle Pickle, the architect. He seems to be around the wrong way. Oh well. Well, while he's mucking around doing that, today we are going to be building a news headquarters, the iconic building that you see at the start of every Littlewood flagship episode. So, I don't have an inventory for this one unfortunately, but I can tell you that we can head off to what I've kind of done recently. Righto! And it looks like my good friend Mickle Pickle is waving. But this is basically what's being built. If you didn't already see this at the start, get ready. This is a preview of what you will see in the future. Now, where is Mickle Pickle? There he is. He's right there, hidden amongst the crowd. But I found him. There we go. And he's even pointing up. And it looks like I've now fallen. And up, or not. And let's see if... Yep, there we go. He is out. Anyway, we've mucked around enough, so let's head over to the actual spot where we're going to be building the NNHQ. Now, if you followed my community post, yeah, the file corrupted, so this has all been recorded, you know, ahead of time. So with the file corrupting on several bits, this is about what I could get. So basically, we built it around about here, so if we were to go, say a little bit further, and we started off by placing smooth stone on the bottom. Unfortunately, I actually didn't notice at the time, but I accidentally kept recording up down at the bottom, but I couldn't necessarily refilm it. Meanwhile, while that was happening, my good architect Mickle Pickle was getting ready to work on the columns. Speeding up through most of this, it was mostly just the same of putting columns down, and we were basically making a 3-block gap in between each column. Then we were done with that. Also I thought, because my architect Mickle Pickle decided to extend this much higher. I'll cut ahead of this part because it's much the same. While I was building these columns, my architect was working on dividing the floors, and he was also working on some of the windows, if you can catch a short glimpse at the bottom of the screen. I'll cut ahead again because, once again, it's a very similar thing. This building is very symmetrical, and that's mainly attributed to my good friend Mickle Pickle, who basically worships symmetry. He can't live without it, and he gets very disappointed, let's say, if things don't look symmetrical. Cough cough at some of my other builds, I guess then. There's a long, very disorientating view when I look back at this, when I descend down the NNHQ, which is set to become one of the tallest buildings in Littlewood. Not as tall as that iconic tower that you see at every video, but decently tall, let's say, to compete with other buildings. Anyways, enough talk about that, because my good friend Mickle Pickle was ready with some windows, and sooner or later I decided to help him on that. And most of these windows was the same thing. It was a very long and tiring process to get what I think, now that I can remember, was about 6 floors worth of these. It was definitely worth the aesthetic later because it looked pretty cool. Just wait until you see the end of the fast forward. It definitely fits that sort of news headquarters, that office building type aesthetic. And it's something that I can thank my architect for. He did a really good job on this. And he's also helped build many things that you'll get to see later in the School Adventure series. But anywho, that was all done, so let's have a view of this. Bit disorientating and a bit similar, but you can definitely see about this view over here that looks pretty good. And in my opinion, definitely fits the office building aesthetic. But let's say half of it was done, because now we had a bit of a floor to get to. and my architect decided that birch planks would be a good thing for the NNHQ. And of course, I had to follow along. The base of the floor was very simple. It was just birch planks, and soon enough, we just did that for the rest of the floors. So floor number 2, floor number 3, but the most interesting part would be planning on what would be on each of those floors, as I always decided that, like the previous successor, its predecessor if you will, that the newsroom would be on the top. But once we were done, we realized one thing. We'd accidentally trapped ourselves, and I was pointing fingers at my architect for that, but he found an ingenious solution. Just break the middle of the blocks, and then we would work our way around from there. After a bit of planning, my architect Mickle Pickle found the perfect thing for the first floor, and what I honestly should have thought of earlier. It was a reception. Of course, you gotta have a front reception to that. And so Mickle Pickle began work onto the desk, and meanwhile I was tasked with filling in the area right next to it, which we decided was gonna be an elevator. Well, by elevator we just mean as in a very long ladder, because you can't really make elevators in Minecraft, right? Oh, sorry, must have been a bad feed. But anyway, Mickle Pickle and I decided to continue on the lobby, so I would help with some of the decorations while he'd do the main centerpiece, the desk. So he got to work on the desk, which was basically just using quartz blocks. Pretty simple really, but the building technique was definitely something that I'd not used in previous builds. In fact, I thought it was pretty cool. Though for him, I think it was just another day in the office. To make that visual aesthetic, we wanted a receptionist. Well, that took a while, let's say, because the villagers kept, let's say, escaping. And yes, I have my sword out, so it looks like I'm a murderer. But no, my architect just went on a bit of a killing spree, and every receptionist that escaped, he would kill. We looked like we were getting something done, but every single time he'd find a way to escape. In fact, we were about to begin the carpet, and then the villager just randomly escaped while we were actually doing this, and we didn't even notice till later. Well, there's another one to the kill tally. This continued on and on and on, with the villagers escaping. Yeah, it took quite a while, and we were figuring out what to do for that. Then I had an idea. Barrier blocks. Yes, we were gonna trap the poor soul in this place, and the only way we could do that to make it look visually good was with barriers. Now, when I hold the barriers, you can see it, but boom. As you can see, barrier, you can see it. Anything else? No. And as you can see, it should be all good. Well, so I thought. So I had to add a little bit more barrier, but eventually coming into that, and then I witnessed another murder by my architect. But we got there eventually, and then I spawned the villager there just to see if he would try it. He did not. Mission failed, I guess. Anyway, getting back on topic, we had some lovely benches that my architect made, and some even more beautiful flower pots. I had no idea that that would look so good. But with the desk pretty much finished, we'd pretty much completed the lobby just like that. So without further ado, we got to work on the next floor, which we decided was a break room. So my architect decided to use the same strategy that he did for the stands, and this would be where we would place food. I thought of doing cake, but in the meantime I decided to carpet this entire floor, just to make it look a little nicer than ordinary birch planks. and in this case I decided to use a light grey carpet. Once I was done with that, Mickle Pickle decided on building a fridge, which I thought was really cool as to what he was doing. And while he was doing that, I did probably the most important part of this. You can't have a break room without tables or chairs. And so that's what my next goal was to make. And so for this, I decided to stick with the theme of the room, which was light grey carpet, birch, and quartz stairs. During that, my architect did cut out and I did not notice until a bit later. Bottom line, his internet cut off, but not to mine because I have cake here to solve the problem, and just like that, the break room was complete. So the next thing I had to do was build, of course, the offices where you actually make the news. It took me a while to get a design going, hence why I cut ahead of this, but I was finally able to settle on this design, and it basically kept in that pattern. I did mess it up a couple times, so I think I'm going to fast forward ahead of this. It was just a very simple pattern of quartz, smooth stone, and stairs. And once that was done, I just covered that all in carpet. And that was all for that floor. But I was gonna have to do other floors next, and there's still quite a few more. So let's just fast forward through all of those floors, shall we? The floors were very simple, and I kinda liked what I designed. Oh yeah, and my architect had returned. As you can see, it's probably been a bit of a while, as it's daytime now, but my architect was now getting ready to build a weather room up here, in which took a bit of time, but we were getting there. Now, similar to the predecessor building, he also decided to build cameras, just like I did in the original NNHQ almost 4 years ago. It took him a while to settle on a design that he actually liked, not least because there are no cameras in Minecraft, but we decided on droppers as the camera. When I saw that though, I actually thought he was going to put things in there, which I found a little weird, but then I got the point. Whoops, mistake on my part, I guess. And along with that was a bit of inventory. I'm not quite sure why he decided to build that, but I guess it would make sense because you need stage props, don't you? But I was a little confused when I saw what was being built here. Night came once again, and it was only then when I started to notice how dark this building was. So obviously we'd need some light. I decided to use glowstone for these lights, just to fit that office building apparel. I thought that if I used sea lanterns like I have in many of my builds, it wouldn't have that sort of, if you would, old-time office style building, like what this is supposed to have. Well, never mind, because I walked up and I immediately saw sea lanterns up top. But basically, my architect up here was building the newsroom that you'd expect to see at the start of every flagship episode. Maybe not exactly at the start, but you'll definitely see that. Stay tuned for that Easter episode. But my architect utilized trapdoors, which I've only used for flower pots. But basically, as I point over there, that's the sort of view you'd get. And I only just then noticed that we have a little issue. That this column over here was blocking a bit of the view. But we decided to just keep it like that. Well, hope I remember my cue cards, because my architect here was making it so that you could just read your cue cards as you present the news. Pretty good, isn't it? And I wish I could actually do that for any speeches I give in real life. Then I saw a dragon. Well, a dragon head. However, I was pretty confused as to why we have a dragon in the NNHQ, and I did question him about that. I guess I had to deal with it. Well, not for too long, because he would eventually get rid of it in favor for a much more realistic looking camera. And along with that, he decided to build a microphone while I was doing the carpet around. I'll fast forward past this bit. I wanted to use a different carpet color than grey because this is the top room. This is the room where the magic happens, if you will. But after a bit of mucking around, we headed off to the roof, which was going to be the final part of this build. So the first thing to do on this roof, my architect decided he wanted to make a long antenna. The building is already one of the highest, but he wanted to make sure it was definitively the second highest build in Littlewood, and so he made an antenna. Well, this mirrored my NNHQ, the two antennas as well, but differently, these antennas weren't the same height in the original NN building. That's what it looked like. And at the end of the video, I may show you a comparison of both buildings. And so the final part of this extremely long video was of course the iconic logo of NN. And this in a more cherry-like way, if you will. To add to that sort of feel of these logo office buildings, we decided to put it right on the edge of it and have it held up by supports, in which case we decided on spruce fences. Well, the sign of NN was complete. And just like that, the only thing left to do was one little decoration, and that was a vent. Well, an attempt at a vent, but I think it's good enough. And with that, NNHQ was good to go. So let's have one last look at it. Well, not the last look, you'll definitely see this more. Here it is, the view from the bottom. As we head into the lobby, the poor trapped receptionist, probably enjoying himself, probably not. Hopefully he is. And of course, I was waiting on my architect to come and join me. Up here you can see the break room. So there's all the tables, and of course, some cake. Really tasty. And I saw that as well. And let's just say, maybe you won't get away too light with it next time. Of course, we have office rooms over here, and basically just the same thing for the following floors. Another office room, and again, and then we land up into the weather room. As we can see, we updated them with TVs. We turned those inventories into TVs. And of course, my architect was performing a weather report. But he's not the real reporter. Just you wait and see. Moving on from that, the centerpiece of it all. The room that you'll see the most. And of course, he decided to be the reporter again. Again, not the official reporter. And gotta say, not a very great view of the city, at least from this perspective. But he liked to do his report. Don't know what he was reporting on, but I'm sure I trust him. And finally, the antennas that make this building so tall. The vents that we literally just built a moment ago, and there goes my architect. Oh wait, nope, up he comes. We don't even have an airborne Littlewood, and yet he is flying and just lands past me as well. And of course we got the signage around there. Well, there's only one thing left to do, so let's head over there and get another great view of this. Right here from the Life of a Littlewood ride. And if my architect can come over, then we'd be able to finish this right here. It's been a very long video, and it's taken a very long time, but we are officially there. Where has he even gone? I don't know. Oh, nope, there he is. Alright, well, there's only one thing left to say. Goodbye from Littlewood. We hope you enjoyed your stay.